Bible prophecy is active and unfolding daily. Zechariah 12, Isaiah 17, Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38. Here is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this week's newscast. From the Los Angeles Times, threatening calls are pouring into switchboards of Jewish schools and community centers with alarming frequency. The fifth round of threats in the last 2 months hit 20 Jewish institutions last week on Monday. From the Times of Israel, quote, "I think we're seeing a pandemic in formation," said Malcolm Hohenlein, Executive Vice Chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations. Continuing his quote, "We saw anti-Semitism in Britain, we saw it in France, and now we see it's spreading everywhere. Look at the numbers of incidents in Germany, Scandinavia, and other parts of the world. And now we see in America swastikas being painted, other expressions, threats or aggression against kids on campuses," close quote. And from the Daily Mail, UK, ISIS fanatics have issued a chilling call for fellow extremists to terrorize Jewish communities in the West through an ISIS-linked Telegram channel called Lone Mujahid, a chat room which encourages lone wolf-style attacks. Supporters were advised to dress up like a Jew and conceal weapons under their coats before unleashing the pain of the Muslims on their victims. A separate message included a list of Jewish communities in Britain. You know, my friends, the primary focus of this newscast lies in the interest of me acting as a watchman on the wall. Israel is Elohim's timepiece in terms of Bible prophecy. So my focus is on any and all events that point at prophetic verses seen in Yahweh's Word. With wars and rumors of wars, as well as our Intifada update, we are watching, most specifically, for signs of Zechariah 12, Isaiah 17, Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38, and other biblical prophecies that speak of the imminent rapture event and the day of Yahweh's wrath, which precede the second coming of Yeshua HaMashiach, and finally, the end of this age of darkness and confusion. We've seen the blood moon tetrad of 2014-2015 introducing the birth of ISIS and the mushrooming of Islam throughout the earth. We're watching this coming September's Revelation 12 sign of the woman in the heavens, as well as astral alignments with the Great Pyramid Giza. And now we are seeing the unbelievably arrogant and belligerent behavior of Iran actually escalating. Just this past New Year's Day, Iranian-backed militants in Bahrain organized a prison break of convicted terrorists. Then, later in January, Tehran tested a nuclear-capable ballistic missile, its 12th violation, at least, of a UN Security Council resolution barring such tests. Iran's constitution calls for exporting its Islamic-inspired revolution to the rest of the world, and its leaders talk of Greater Persia, a sphere of influence encompassing much of the Middle East, and death to America remains a favorite rallying cry in Tehran. Just this past weekend on Saturday, Iran's official media reported that Iran has successfully tested the advanced S-300 air defense provided by Russia over Israel's objections. And on Sunday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told the Israeli cabinet, quote, Iran is trying to establish itself permanently in Syria with a military presence on the ground and at sea, and also a gradual attempt to open a front against us on the Golan Heights." Close quote. I pray that this newscast will put a spark in the hearts of many to start digging into the Word of Yahweh in the interest of getting to know their Creator in a more personally involved way. Thus, my word studies on Thursdays. Please join me if you haven't. And in the interest of learning His plan of salvation, how it works, and why it works the way it does. One thing is for sure, time is running very short. Turning to wars and rumors of wars, on Monday, from Ynet News, Israel Air Force fighter jets attacked 5 Hamas terror targets in the Gaza Strip in response to a rocket fired from the Strip that exploded in open area in the Sha'ar HaNegev Regional Council in the early morning hours. The rocket, which did not activate the code red siren, landed in open area in Sha'ar HaNegev Monday morning and caused no damage and no injuries. This marks the 7th rocket fired at Israel in the last month. Further, the IDF attacked 15 targets across the Gaza Strip, including a military post near the Nusrat camp in the center of the Strip, with 4 Hamas wounded in eastern Rafah. Then on Tuesday, from the Washington Post, Russian and Syrian regime forces bombed U.S.-backed fighters and villages near the Syrian city of Al-Bab. Army Lieutenant General Stephen Townsend, who leads the fight against ISIS in both Iraq and Syria, told reporters that he believes the pilots thought they were bombing militants, not the Syrian Democratic Forces that the United States trains and advises. Russia denied any involvement in the bombings afterward, saying neither Russian nor Syrian aircraft were involved. But then, Russia usually denies involvement in military operations despite any and all evidence to the contrary. Then on Wednesday and Thursday, March 1st and 2nd, from I-24 News, late at night, a rocket fired from Gaza landed in the south of Israel, and the following day an Army engineering vehicle carrying out routine activities on the border was hit by gunfire. Then, in response, IDF forces attacked Hamas positions in Gaza with artillery fire and airstrikes on Thursday. Israel holds Hamas responsible for all aggression emanating from its territory. Turning to our Intifada update on Wednesday, March 1st, from Ynet News, a Palestinian stabbed an Israeli at his home in front of his children at the Moore Farm outpost in the southern Mount Hebron area of the West Bank. The Israeli then shot and killed the terrorist. Then on Sunday, March 5th, from Ynet News, Israeli border police officers prevented a stabbing attack at Tapua Junction in the West Bank when a border police lookout identified 2 suspects moving in the open area nearby. Border policemen approached them and found a knife on one of them. Then on Monday, March 6th, from Ynet News, the head of a terror cell that planned attacks against Israelis and who was in charge of procuring weapons for the attacks, was killed during a shootout with Israeli's border police near Ramallah after he opened fire at officers who were attempting to apprehend him. Security forces found 2 M16 rifles and a Carlo submachine gun in his home. And looking at our review of last week's news, Anti-Semitism is on the rise, with threatening calls pouring into the switchboards of Jewish schools and community centers with alarming frequency these past 2 months. Israel Air Force fighter jets attacked 5 Hamas terror targets as well as another 15 targets across the Gaza Strip in response to the 7th rocket fired from the Strip in the last 4 weeks. Russian and Syrian regime forces bombed U.S.-backed fighters in villages near the Syrian city of Al-Bab. Another rocket fired from Gaza landed in the south of Israel. An army engineering vehicle carrying out routine activities on Israel's border was hit by gunfire. IDF forces further attacked Hamas positions in Gaza with artillery fire and airstrikes. A Palestinian stabbed an Israeli at his home in front of his children. Israeli border police officers prevented a stabbing attack in the West Bank, and the head of a terror cell that planned attacks against Israelis was killed during a shootout with Israel's border police. And that, my friends, is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Abba willing, I'll see you here again next week. Until then, stay safe. Shalom.
Crowded rooms, I need more space than I consume. Enough is time alone with you, underneath a naked moon, sharing confidential moods and making chatter. Mockingbird nocturnal sings notations of eternal things, entering the quantum breeze, flying not for want of wings. He lights his gaze on you and me, simply because we matter.